Nie wiem, czy wiecie, jak to jest właśnie z tym asasynem Shadows. Może ktoś słyszał, może ktoś nie słyszał. Ostatnio bardzo dużego hejtu jest na Assassin's Creed Shadows i to nie z byle powodu, no bo okazało się, że Ubisoft trochę splunął w twarz kulturze japońskiej i w sumie tak co Japończykom w sumie tak nawet to ujął. Z paru powodów. Są takie dwa główne, o których dosyć mocno ostatnio wybrzmiało, ale sobie obejrzmy, co tutaj mamy.
Senator in Japan has started investigating Assassin's Creed Shadows for tampering with Japanese history. So I've actually heard a lot about this. It seems like Ubisoft seems like they fucked up. Let's just say that. So...
Tak jest i to dosyć ostro pokrzanili, ponieważ nie wiem, czy ktoś kojarzy właśnie jeden z dwóch głównych bohaterów jest właśnie Yasuke, czyli ten czarnoskóry wielkolud. No i jest oczywiście typowa Japonka ninja. No i okazuje się, że w Assassin's Creed Shadows Yasuke jest samurajem. No z tego, co ja znalazłem wcześniej już i wiedziałem, Yasuke generalnie nie był samurajem. Był albo niewolnikiem, albo był służącym. W większości mówią, że był służącym po prostu, który podlegał pod Nobunagę. No ale coś tu chyba poszło nie tak.
So this is what's kind of funny about this. The katana and
I jeszcze to właśnie teraz Asmo będzie gadał. Katana, którą Ubi próbuje, nie wiem, sprzedawać, czy generalnie jest w jakiejś tam wersji Ultimate, czy jakiejś Deluge, czy cokolwiek, którą próbują sprzedać, jest kopią katany z One Piece'a, którą posiada Nona Zorro. I zaraz w sumie zobaczycie co i jak.
Yasuke's mask, or even the artwork from the game. So this is the artwork here. You guys see this? Doesn't it look exactly like the sword of Zoro, a character from One Piece? And then are those the exact same symbols? So it's got the K, the upside down Y, and then the box with the shit in it, and then like the one that kind of looks like a piranha plant.
Zobaczcie. Zobaczcie to. Zobaczcie to. Jest K, o którym mówił Asmo. Jest Y odwrócone i cała reszta, nie? Także Ubisoft mocno poszedł po bandzie, można by wręcz powiedzieć. Banda leniwców, brak kreatywności własnej, które musieli tylko zżynać od innych, a wręcz powiedziałbym kraść nawet, no bo to jest plagiat w tym momencie. I to dosyć duży, jak na takie studio, więc powiem wam w skrócie od mojej strony. Ja na pewno nie będę ogrywał Assassin's Creed Shadows, przynajmniej nie w dniu premiery. Nie wiem, czy jeszcze w tym roku, czy w ogóle. Zobaczymy, jak z tego wyjdzie. Natomiast dużo osób, nie powiedziałbym, że Japonia, no bo ciężko mi powiedzieć, czy to akurat też Japończycy są, ale na pewno dużo osób chce kompletnego skancelowania Assassin's Creed Shadows właśnie z tych powodów, między innymi właśnie, że tutaj plagiacik jest, ale jeszcze jedna jest tutaj rzecz, o której być może nawet Asmon powie, więc zobaczmy co dalej.
I'm gonna say it. I think they did it. Because I don't think these people give a fuck about Japanese culture.
Dokładnie, bo liczą się tylko pieniążki. Mają w tyłku konsekwencje prawne, bo sądzą, że są bezkarni, że mogą wszystko.
Why people crying? The reason why people are crying is because Ubisoft is trying to get social justice points, and I think the amount of examples that people have found out with it being inauthentic. For example, his boss fight, they start playing hip-hop music, and then like the
To jakoś mocno mnie w sumie nie zraziło, dopóki to też nie wybrzmiało, ale faktycznie, kurde, jeśli tam dali hip-hop zamiast takiej jakiejś typowej, klasycznej japońskiej muzyki z tych czasów, no to giga średnie jest, nie? Bo co, dali hip-hop, bo co, bo czarnoskóry jest? No tak...
the experts that they had were like fucking cuckoo crazy. Then they have the sword for this guy, and it's from like One Piece. I don't care about the Assassin's Creed games being historically accurate or not. The point is that it's being done for a reason that people view as inauthentic. They're not upset about the inclusion of the characters. They're upset that the way that it's presented feels fake. And I've said this before. When this game comes out...
No, i to jest kolejny aspekt. Jest tyle wersji, są 3 normalne edycje Assassin's Creed. Standardowa, tam złota i tą Ultimate, która jest zabójstwem jakimś. No i co dostajemy tutaj? Grę, pre-order bonus, season passa, 3-dniowy head start, czyli tak de facto jak ogłosili premierę, to gra w sumie nie startuje tego dnia, tylko jednak 3 dni wcześniej. Więc to jest autentyczna premiera i za to trzeba dodatkowo płacić, nie oszukujmy się. No jakiś Ultimate Pack, nie wiadomo co w tym jest, no albo kup sobie subskrypcję Ubisoft Plus. Szczerze powiedziawszy, ja na tego nie wezmę, żeby to grać właśnie z racji, co tutaj się też zadziało.
out, Yasuke will not even be in the top 10 problems with this game.
Tak, dokładnie. To nie będzie jeden z wielu problemów, to tam będzie lawina niezła, szczerze powiedziawszy, bo to jest... Ale jeszcze jedna rzecz była, to jest odnośnie, kurde, teraz nie mam chyba tego materiału, ale tam jeszcze było, że skradli, a czyli może nie skradli, że użyli flagi bez pozwolenia, jakaś tam flaga była, czekajcie, Assassin's Creed Shadows Ubisoft Shout Permission. Zobaczmy. Dobra. Widzę, że to jakieś poniewozy się tam szykują. O, tu jest coś świeżego nawet. 17 godzin. 17 godzin temu się pojawiło.
When we thought that the Assassin's Creed Shadows debacle could not get any worse, that we gathered all the evidence that we needed and all the research that we needed to do was done, it has indeed escalated, with the Japanese government doubling down on their efforts to investigate not only the newest Ubisoft title, but also the character.
Czyli na to wychodzi, że jednak Ubisoft dostanie pod dupie, jeśli faktycznie się wszystko to potwierdzi. Co dobrze, bo powinni dostać ostro po dupie, szczerze powiedziawszy. Za to, kurde, nie... Takie rzeczy w ogóle nie powinny istnieć. Ale niestety devsi w obecnych czasach są leniwymi bucami bez kreatywności. Nie mają żadnej inwencji twórczej własnej, tylko muszą po prostu kraść, plagiatować, używać bez pozwolenia, bo dlaczego by nie?
Characters within the game, specifically Yasuke, a samurai who turns out not to actually be a samurai, and most of that information about Yasuke all of these years was a lie,
To jest też, właśnie, bo tutaj w tym klipie od Asmona tego też nie było, więc tutaj też to posłuchamy, bo to też jest ciekawe, bo okazuje się, że informacja na temat Yasuke wcześniej, bo być może wyedytowali i przerobili, już naprawili informacje, jak ja to sprawdzałem. Generalnie te informacje odnośnie Yasuke były na Wikipedii. W sumie sprawdzałem na Wikipedii swoją drogą, dlatego dowiedziałem się, że Yasuke nie był samurajem. Natomiast wcześniej na Wikipedii były informacje odnośnie tego, że Yasuke był samurajem, który podlegał Nobunadze, nie? No, ale to zaraz tutaj też wyjdzie w praniu.
perpetuated by a white dude in the United Kingdom who took a very small handful of tidbit information and created a gigantic spectacle that the West has run with for many, many years. Not only are Japanese content creators taking notice of it, but there are petitions being
Czekajcie, gdzieś jeszcze napisy są. O.
made, investigations being done by normal Japanese people, and letters being written to the secretary of the senator who is investigating this situation. But first, I'd like to recap with you all about what's been going on with Thomas Lockley, who has disappeared from the face of the earth only after being caught altering and manipulating Yasuke's history for so long. And after it was found out...
Dokładnie. I wiecie dlaczego manipulował? Ponieważ napisał książkę o nim i jeszcze promował na Wikipedii, podszywając się nie pod siebie, tylko pod jakąś inną, zupełnie innym kątem. Promował książkę swoją na Wikipedii. To jest... I to, tak jak tutaj powiedział ziomek, przez wiele, wiele lat. To się w głowie nie mieści, wręcz bym powiedział.
What he had done, he decided that it was best if he had departed from social media and forbid anyone from contacting him. And he also said that he had never worked on Assassin's Creed Shadows, has nothing to do with it, and felt it best that he disappeared. The problem.
Dokładnie, bo okazuje się, że pousuwał wszystkie social media, albo poblokował to swoją drogą, na pewno pousuwało swojego Facebooka, czy tam fanpage'a, cokolwiek tam miał, z racji całej fali hejtu prawdopodobnie, bo spodziewał się, że tak to się stanie, nie? Ale to jest masakra po prostu, to jest zupełnie inny poziom, kurde, masakracji, nie?
Problem was, he was lying. You see, this post from Grums here acts as a gateway into a very fascinating rabbit hole. Thomas Lockley, the historian who promoted Yasuke as a
I
samurai,
jeszcze jest historykiem.
did a podcast with Ubisoft about it. Japanese have been looking into his book and widely discrediting his research. Here, Ubisoft uses him as a historical reference for Assassin's Creed Shadows, and here is a screenshot from the podcast, which I'm going to head over to now. And it says Yasuke is one of the most captivating and yet mysterious figures within Japanese history. In 1581, at the height of the Civil War, he crossed paths with the country's most powerful warlord, Oda Nobunaga. Their meeting bound the two men together and set Yasuke on a path to become the first known samurai of African descent in Japan, which, by the way, has been proven now to be a lie. Delving into the history behind one of the two main characters in the latest Assassin's Creed game, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Matt Lewis and Thomas Lockley himself examined the few surviving historical sources to reveal what we know about Yasuke, Japan's first African samurai. So here it is. Here is the proof that Thomas Lockley not only lied about Yasuke for so many years, but he also worked with Ubisoft to help develop and perpetuate.
I stąd powstało to gówno. Po prostu. Stąd powstało to gówno.
Spread this lie around as if it was historical fact, and this is something that the Japanese government is going.
Mnie ciekawi, co teraz sobie sądzi i myśli, i jakie są dalsze kroki Ubisoftu w ogóle, bo to jest giga ciekawe, nie? Co oni w ogóle w tym momencie zrobią, nie? Bo to jest jednak przekłamana historia, tym bardziej jeśli mieli zamiar użyć, albo chcieli gdzieś tam zawrzeć, że to jest oparta na faktach historia o Jaskę. Więc no jestem ciekaw tego. Moim zdaniem, tak tutaj mówią ludzie w większości, że no, Assassin's Creed Shadows powinno w tym momencie zostać kompletnie skancelowane i do kosza wyrzucone, nie? Bo nie powinno w ogóle zaistnieć. To jest moje też zdanie, to nie powinno w ogóle zaistnieć, nie? No taki wielki kopas w dupę dla Ubisoftu, nie? Żeby jednak sprawdzali źródła, nie używali tylko i wyłącznie jednego, tylko posiłkowali się wieloma źródłami. I generalnie tak to powinno, tak w większości to jest, nie? Jeśli, nie wiem, pisze się jakąś rozprawkę, to kurde nie bierze się informacji tylko i wyłącznie z jednego źródła, tylko się porównuje te źródła, czy nie ma czegoś przekłamanego, czy są jakieś informacje nieprawdziwe. Tak mi się przynajmniej wydaje, że tak to powinno wyglądać, nie? Że sprawdza się wiele źródeł, a nie tylko bierze z jednego, nie? Więc well.
Going to go after. I'm going to show you that video in just a second because it is crazy. But first you have to hear exactly what Thomas Lockley himself has said about Yasuke and the accuracy of his samurai claim. Listen to this portion right here.
Do we know whether Yasuke undergoes any kind of formal samurai training? So he's often remembered as a samurai. As you mentioned, we don't really know what that means at this time. Does he undergo any kind of training in using a Japanese sword, or is it literally the case that Nobunaga gives him a sword and then we count him as a samurai?
Well, the romantic in me would like to say yes. Of course, he had training. The historian in me says probably not. The nearest we can get to any evidence is that picture of sumo wrestling. Sumo wrestling is a martial art. It's a preparation for war, for warriors. And that is some evidence that he's certainly engaged within martial pursuits, shall we say. But beyond that, it's impossible to say.
Did you hear that? He said that it's not confirmed whether Yasuke was a samurai or not. In fact, in this very podcast, he says that it's debatable what samurai even meant back in the day. So there's no real historical fact that Yasuke was ever a samurai in the first place, and the painting that he references to prove it is from an artist that couldn't even confirm if this was the real Yasuke or not. And this is the problem that the Japanese people are having, because this information is being passed off as historical fact to so many people. The Japanese people, as well as normal people in the West, have had enough. As you can see in this post, Thomas Lockley, author of Yasuke, Black Samurai, falsely claimed he never spoke to Ubisoft before deleting his accounts. It's now confirmed Ubi was influenced by him for Assassin's Creed Shadows and featured him in a Spotify episode. Lockley is now facing national backlash for his dishonesty. And he goes on to say the progressive critics who claimed only people from the West are upset Yasuke has been trending in Japan for 4 consecutive days. You don't trend in Japan for 4 days straight unless people are talking about you all the time. And that is exactly what's happening with Thomas Lockley. He's disgraced across Japan right now, and people are demanding that the Japanese government investigate him. It's not just something that they took up on their own. The Japanese people are talking about this. They sent up letters to the secretary.
O mój Boże święty, ale gnój. No, ale dobrze. Dobrze.
What I read here from Learning the Law was pretty awesome.
Jechać z tym.
Beautiful. The fools thought they could lock down Wikipedia and get away with it. This has made the Japanese people realize that the West wasn't portraying Yasuke as entertainment and a fictional figure, but rather as a historical samurai based on lies. And now they are angry. You have to keep in mind that not only is Thomas Lockley messing up the history with Yasuke and has been doing so for so long, Ubisoft themselves have taken Thomas Lockley's words and run with it as a historical source of information to make Yasuke who he is. In doing so, they have not only ruined who Yasuke was as a person and gotten it completely wrong, they have even gone as far as changing his very sexuality and personality.
Pocisnęli jeszcze dalej? O! Bo słyszałem coś, że właśnie, że niby właśnie gej albo coś w tym stylu?
He's apparently going to be bisexual and like both women and men in some situations.
Okay. Biseksualny, okay.
Places reports. New report claims same-sex romance options confirmed for Assassin's Creed Shadows. Now, this is something that I said in previous videos about Assassin's Creed Shadows. I predicted that they were going to do this because in past Assassin's Creed games, they have done this exact same thing. In Assassin's Creed Odyssey with Alexios and the other girl that you can play as, they also did the same thing in Valhalla, if I recall correctly. So they're going to do that again, of course, but this would explain why they hired that very interesting historical consultant that studies relationships between priests and young adolescent boys. Because as per YouTube video, it says romances are back and seems like they're going to work a bit different this time. For one, just like in Odyssey and Valhalla, we can still choose to pursue romantic relationships or not. But because they are two completely different characters that are playable, they will now both have their own unique romances. While in Odyssey, for example, both Alexios and Cassandra had the exact same options. Okay, well, here's the problem. Yasuke is a real historical figure and he's the main character of this game. So now they have given this character bisexual options. What is so funny about their change to Yasuke's personality and sexuality is that historically he is technically a Christian who works for the Jesuits and he was supposed to help spread Christianity to the masses of Japan. So they're saying historically in this video game Assassin's Creed Shadows that Yasuke, a black man, was not only a samurai, which wasn't true, but they're now saying that he gets down with men sometimes, which is probably not true either.
Jak gorzej jeszcze może lubi kurde pocisnąć to. Unholister, dzięki wielkie za followka, dzięki. I siemka.
And they're just making it up as they go along. Not only them, but the people who study and research this man, who have studied and researched this man more than anybody else, still can't help but pass off the samurai lie that so many are now debunking. If you want to see how destructive Thomas Lockley's disinformation campaign on Yasuke has been in the West and in Japan, take a look at this post from Learning the Law, which is hilarious, actually. Things are escalating quickly in Japan, and I know that for sure now. Now Broadway plans to distort Japanese history history by creating a Yasuke musical titled The Black Samurai. Meanwhile, Tokyo Weekender, Japan's top English lifestyle magazine, is calling out Thomas Lockley. This man and Ubisoft are done for, and this is the article in question that he refers us to. Backlash over claims that black slaves were popular among feudal lords in Japan. On Thursday, Variety revealed that Joanne M. Hunter, the choreographer of School of Rock and Bad Cinderella, I love School of Rock, has been hired to direct the upcoming musical Yasuke the Black Samurai, which is expected to open in 2026. It's a year or so from now. With few historical documents on Yasuke, the story is likely to be chiefly based on the words of Thomas Lockley. I'm telling you, dude, when that production fails and all these other people are forced to admit the truth after supporting this guy for so long, it's going to be a disaster for him. It's going to be a disaster for all of these people who have perpetuated and enabled this lie for all this time. The English author has received widespread criticism, particularly in the past few days, and has reportedly deleted his Facebook page. The biggest backlash has been against his claim that several feudal lords in Japan were happy to make use of black slaves. There have been close to 200,000 posts on the subject. What? Dude, this guy is
200,000
such a
postów?
dude, man. He really is. And now for the main event. Let's read this post from Grum so that you can have full context as to what is now going on. The Assassin's Creed Shadows issues with Yasuke and the discredited historian Thomas Lockley have exploded into a potential diplomatic incident. Letters are being sent with questions to the Japan Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science, and Technology, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Economy, Trade, and Industry. While the government have not taken action yet, they are waiting for final release of the game to decide, and there is mounting pressure in Japan to address the issue with Ubisoft portraying false information to Japanese children. How fascinating. Now, this guy right here is a member of the House of Counselors in the upper branch of the Diet of Japan. So he is in the government.
Czyli jednak
This
czekają,
guy is
aż
a
gra wyjdzie.
secretary for a certain member of the House of Counselors. All right, so this guy is kind of a big deal. He's a middleman for information being passed from the people to the government and back and forth. And he also communicates with other branches of the Japanese government in order to get a bunch of information. Specifically in this case, that information is about Yasuke and Assassin's Creed Shadows. And not only that, but they're researching a whole bunch of other content.
Czyli ja wnioskuję tak, jeśli Japończycy, generalnie cały rząd Japonii czeka, aż Ubisoft wypuści, będzie premiera gry, i jeśli Ubisoft w sumie nic nie zrobi, albo będzie nadal zawarte, że to jest historia oparta na prawdziwych faktach, albo po części, to o kurde, ale będzie kurde ale będzie Ubi płonąć. O mój Boże święty. I sądzę i tak, że zapłonie.
And pertaining to what YouTubers have talked about, pertaining to other investigations done by Japanese locals, etc., etc. And what they have determined is that there could be potential problems with this game that could escalate the investigation to higher levels. Now, if that is the case, then not only is Thomas Lockley in hot water, but Ubisoft could be in hot water as well. As if they haven't been in hot water already with their horrid gameplay showcases for both Assassin's Creed Shadows and Star Wars Outlaws, which we'll touch upon in just a minute. It seems that all of these people are in big, big trouble. But as it says here, he is a secretary for House of Counselors member Tetsu Hamada. He was talking about letters that were sent to him by Japanese people, to which he responded very promptly and sent information up to his superiors. But he also reached out to the National Diet Library, which is basically the National Library of Japan, in order to ask questions about Yasuke's history and to determine how accurate his history is. Because if it turns out that, of course, it's not true, which by the looks of things, it might not actually be true, okay, guys? I think we have enough evidence to make that established conclusion by now. It's going to escalate. I want to show you guys this.
Jeśli oni to zweryfikują w swojej bibliotece, w dokumentacji, zakładają, że posiadają oczywiście, no,
clip of what he says right here so that you can see that he actually said it, and he points out something about Thomas Lockley that is very telling.
そしてですね、この著書に関してですね、日本語の著書と英語版の著書が内容が違うということが指摘されておりました。これなんでこんなに差が出るかっていうと、日本語版 は
So if you did not hear what he says, he brings up the fact that Thomas Lockley says different things in his American interviews and his Japanese interviews about Yasuke's history. When he's in Japan, he acknowledges that not much is known to be able to confirm much of the information he has provided. And yet when he does his American interviews, he says that most of this stuff is true and that it can be verified and that the Japanese people are pleased with this information. So these people are looking not only into the interviews that Thomas Lockley has participated in, but
ziomek ma zniszczoną karierę do końca życia.
surrounding Yasuke's history that people
sam se zniszczył, żeby nie było.
They may have already reached out to Thomas Lockley. Not much is known about that. What we know
Że on nigdy nie zostanie ten, zatrudniony jakiś historyk.
because he was guilty, knew it, and he was embarrassed and went offline.
A z zawodu jest historykiem.
Contact him about his dealings with Ubisoft and the profits that he's made off of a speculative fiction book. Now, I do feel it's important to point out that the reason that this is being investigated is because people are talking about it. If they weren't talking about it and there weren't people angry in Japan over this, the Japanese government probably would not take up this issue because after all, it is a video game. And that is something that the Japanese government in this video, according to the secretary, describes that they cannot fully pursue this video game until it comes out and they can make some more
Ma to sens, ponieważ dopóki gra nie wyjdzie, to tak de facto deweloperzy są w stanie jeszcze coś pozmieniać, ewentualnie coś dopisać, że to nie bazuje na prawdziwych zdarzeniach historycznych albo coś w tym stylu. Jeśli Ubi faktycznie to ujmie w swojej grze, no to upiekło im się, że tak powiem, nie? Natomiast temu ziomkowi na pewno się nie upiekło, bo jest tam tyle dowodów do niego, że szkoda gadać, nie? Natomiast musimy poczekać, aż gra wyjdzie i zobaczyć, co tam w sumie będzie. Japończycy na pewno będą bacznie przyglądać się tej grze i teraz i jak wyjdzie po prostu, bo
important distinctions about the accuracy of the game and the intent behind it, whether it's malicious historical inaccuracy or something else. But when it comes to Thomas Lockley, they don't really have to wait for that game to come out to be able to make the distinction that he was lying to people for years, manipulating Wikipedia to serve his own purposes with his book that he wanted to make money off of. They don't need any help with that. They can easily go online and find a bunch of content that proves much of this information, and they probably already have, which is why they are escalating this situation, it appears. So all of this is being passed out to the government in different branches, and this dude and probably other people involved are also participating and assisting in this investigation of Assassin's Creed Shadows. How does this make Ubisoft look? Not very good. The negative backlash is widespread, and the Japanese people are taking this into their own hands. I've been on a website or two just today of people who have conducted their own investigations into Thomas Lockley's crusade in historical fiction, and some of these things go on and on and on. I mean, this information is very public. It's not exactly something that you can hide anymore, and not exactly something that the defenders out there, the Ubisoft shills and the Yasuke Samurai shills, can defend. Regardless of how many people say that the Japanese people aren't upset about it, that the petition for the Assassin's Creed Shadows controversy isn't doing well, even though it's about to hit 100,000 signatures. Yeah, that's a crazy number, guys. So yes, of course it's being talked about. Of course this guy is trending for 4 consecutive days in Japan because the Japanese government and the Japanese people as a whole are taking a look at this guy and they're realizing, dude, this guy's a fraud. He's been lying, and he's been lying on behalf of our people. And he's not even Japanese. That's why you have countless comments in here thanking this dude. These are all translated from Japanese comments, just thanking him for all of his hard work and actually responding and making note of these issues that the people are bringing up. And I guarantee you they're going to find some spicy info since he's sending this up to the official National Library.
tak swoją drogą, tam było 91 000, teraz widzę, że jest 92,5 tysiąca podpisów, żeby skancelować Assassin's Creed. I generalnie to wszystko jest po japońsku, więc to Japończycy podpisują.
Dude, yeah, it's over. It's over. And not just in a governmental, legal establishment kind of way. It's also over in a public perception way too.
Więc to
It's
dosyć
not
szybko
just
rośnie.
Assassin's Creed Shadows getting wrecked in trailers and Ubisoft's gameplay showcases being destroyed. That all...
Swoją drogą odnośnie tych wszystkich showcase'ów, widziałem, tu nie wiem, czy tutaj będzie zawarte, pewnie już nie, ale są inne materiały pokazujące chyba, gdzie to było? na jakimś też Game Expo, które gdzieś tam się działo, chyba w Japonii też coś było. Właśnie pokazywali, była budka właśnie z Assassin's Creed Shadows, była pusta wręcz. Osoby, które siedziały, obracały, znaczy wykorzystywały bencze, żeby oglądać w tylnej części, kurde, inną wystawę, nie? Masakrę po prostu.
Also pertains to other games that are supposed to release very soon, including Star Wars Outlaws, which is doing horrendously with other gamers across the world. They are destroying this trailer in a ratio that is astronomically bad. 9.4 thousand likes to 19,000 dislikes. It's getting obliterated, and that is something that we have seen happen so many times with YouTube trailers for these games. This time it's for a good reason, because Ubisoft thought it was a fantastic idea to show gamers one of the most boring fetch missions ever created on a planet that is the most overused in any Star Wars movie or TV show, in one of the most remote and empty parts of the map that you can possibly think of, in order to get gamers excited for Star Wars Outlaws. By the way, hint hint, it did not work. You guys
Tego nie oglądałem, szczerze powiedziawszy.
in store for us when we spend $70 to $150 for the collector's editions or whatever. This is what we have in store for you.
What is that?
It's just a Star Wars character riding a bike across a very empty desert for almost a minute long. It is crazy how little they have done in this trailer. She's basically going down into a sarlacc pit and grabbing an item that she gives to a Jawa, and then he just throws it away, and then she's like, well, I'm glad I went through all that trouble to fetch this for you. By the way, all of that she goes through to find this item, she ends up not even being in combat a single time. And she brings it back to them.
O
But
mój
after she gets
Boże.
out of this cave, this was the funniest thing that I have seen, because it brings home the fact that this game is extremely underdeveloped and has a lot of issues to work out, and that's apart from the fact that it's from Ubisoft, so you can bet that it's not just the graphics that are in danger, but the gameplay as well, which is also something that you see in the trailer. Check this out right here.
Co to kurde jest? What?
You see that explosion? I've seen better explosions in the Doom franchise, like way back in the 90s. I've seen way better explosions
What?
than that. You guys have to see it. Look at that explosion. It's just...
Ale te tekstury nawet, kurde, co to ma być w ogóle, nie?
So many people have had with Star Wars Outlaws since they first started showing gameplay for it is that the gameplay just looks really clunky. It looks dated, like something that came out in 2018. The combat versus actual NPCs also looks really dumbed down. The NPCs don't really...
To w ogóle też nie pogramy.
And the combat just looks really basic.
Między innymi na inne gierki.
Oh man, she shot a bomb and then a crappy explosion came out and a guy died. Like none of these AI even notice her. Like look at the way that she easily dispatches these two. She just shot them like 2 or 3 times and it was over. Yeah, honestly, overall, the gameplay is disappointing. If you guys want to take a look at the gameplay, go ahead and look it up. You can easily find it. It's an IGN exclusive gameplay reel, and it's not so different from the gameplay reveal for Assassin's Creed Shadows either. It had just as much clunky combat as this game has. It has rendering issues, but this is something that players have come to expect.
Kurde, wydawało mi się, że walka w Shadows była w miarę okej, ale jeśli inni mówią, że jest toporna strasznie, no bo wiadomo, trailery czasami nie pokazują wszystkiego, albo nie idzie dostrzec, przynajmniej nie wszyscy są w stanie dostrzec tego elementu, no ale...
When Ubisoft announces anything, when they make anything, we just all expect Ubisoft to have clunky, underperforming, unfinished video games. They
Yikes.
can't even get anything right. I doubt that people will do as much research on the Star Wars video game as they will Assassin's Creed.
No, ale to jest to, co powtarzałem wcześniej, że próbują jak najmniejszym kosztem zdobyć jak największe zyski, kopiując, copy-paste, brak kreatywności, lenistwo, masakra po prostu, masakra, nie? To naprawdę w ostatnich czasach dużo różnych tych dużych studiów sobie na tego typu rzeczy pozwala, a niestety no gracze, no jak to ciemna masa, no niestety nie oszukujmy się, to jest prawda, biorą i kupują i łykają, kurde, jak pelikany te rybki. No i to jest właśnie ten problem, nie? Dopóki ludzie nie zmądrzeją, to nadal się będzie działo, nie? Ale może jak zaczniemy właśnie tak jak tutaj przy Assassin's Creed Shadows, ewentualnie Outlaws, mocno krzyczeć i przy innych tytułach, nie oszukujmy się, no to może w końcu wezmą się w garść, no ale no zobaczymy.
Shadows, but from what I'm seeing, the perception towards both of these video games is very poor. And these are two of their biggest games that they are releasing, which I'm sure they are hoping they are going to succeed with financially. But considering that the Japanese government is taking this issue very seriously, you will notice if you watch this entire video, the guy does not smile even one time. You will realize how big of a deal this game failing is going to be. And when this game releases, I can guarantee that many people, not just me, not just other content creators, but many people, including people who pre-ordered this game, are going to start finding issues inside of Shadows that they cannot refute. And they're going to start bringing it up. And what is Ubisoft going to do? Are they going to admit their faults? Are they going to be sued? Are they going to be taken to court by the Japanese government? I do not know, but one thing can be certain. Japan and the United States both think that Ubisoft is crap. And that is all I've got for you guys in this video today. If you
No,
haven't had the chance to
dokładnie,
like
tak
it and
jest.
share it with your friends, that would
Tak jest. W ostatnich latach to na pewno dużo firm jest po prostu totalnym. Tyle ludziska mogę wam powiedzieć na ten temat.